Entity Framework, or EF, is an object relational mapper for .NET. It allows developers to work with databases using .NET objects. This means you don't have to write most of the data access code that you usually need. EF was first released in 2008 as part of Net Framework 3.5. Since then, it has gone through several versions. Each version added new features and improved performance. The major versions include EF4, 5, 6, and the latest EF Core. EF Core is a lightweight, extensible, and cross-platform version of EF. It works on Windows, Linux, and macOS. EF Core is different from EF6 and has been rewritten to provide better performance. Entity Framework supports three approaches: database first, model first, and code first. Database first starts with an existing database. Model first starts with a conceptual model. Code first starts with code and generates the database from it. The code-first approach was introduced with Entity Framework 4.1. It lets developers define the data model using C# classes. This is different from database first and model first, where the database or model is created first. Before code first, developers had to work with XML-based EDMX files. This was cumbersome and error-prone. Code first simplifies this by using plain C# classes, known as POCOs, or plain old CLR objects. In code first, you write your classes first. Then, EF generates the database schema based on these classes. This approach is more aligned with modern development practices. It supports agile methodologies and continuous integration. Code first also makes it easier to use migrations. Migrations allow you to update the database schema without losing data. This is useful when your application evolves and your data model changes. Domain-driven design, or DDD, is a software design approach. It focuses on modeling the domain and its logic. The domain model represents the core business concepts and rules. Code first integrates well with DDD. It allows you to start with your domain classes. You don't need to worry about the database schema initially. This lets you focus on the business logic. In DDD, entities and value objects are core concepts. Code first supports these concepts naturally. You define entities as C# classes. EF maps these classes to database tables. Value objects are embedded within entities. Code first encourages good design practices. It promotes separation of concerns and single responsibility principle. Your domain classes are clean and focused on business logic. The data access code is handled by EF. Section 4, step-by-step examples of code first. Let's go through a simple example to understand code first. Consider an application for managing books in a library. We will start by defining the domain classes. First, create a class called public class book. This class will map to a table in the database. The property will be the primary key. Next, create a context class, public class, library context. DB context plus the class inherits from. It contains a property. To create the database, run the following commands in the package manager console: add migration, initial create update database. The command creates a migration file. The command applies the migration to the database. Section 5, benefits and limitations of code first. One of the main benefits of code first is simplicity. You only need to write C# classes. EF handles the database creation and updates. This reduces the amount of boilerplate code. Code first also supports agile development. You can start with a simple model and evolve it over time. Migrations make it easy to apply changes to the database schema. However, code first has some limitations. It might not be suitable for large complex databases. If you need fine-grained control over the database schema, database first might be better. Another limitation is performance. Code first can be slower than database first for large models. This is because EF has to generate the database schema from the classes. Section 6, summary and practical tips for beginners. In summary, the code-first approach is a powerful feature of Entity Framework. It allows you to define your data model using C# classes. This approach is simple and aligns with modern development practices. For beginners, start with small projects. Define your domain classes and use migrations to manage the database schema. Focus on the business logic and let EF handle the data access code. Remember to use good design practices. Keep your domain classes clean and focused. Use migrations to evolve your model over time, and don't forget to test your application thoroughly. By following these tips, you can master the code-first approach and build robust applications. Happy coding!